Hey, everybody. Thank you all so much for tuning into the show. We're here with Spike.
Hey.
Spike Polite, brother. How are you?
Yo, this is a good day. Nice refreshment.
Yeah?
Rain falling, keeping us spiky haired.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, when I think of
radiation from the sky.
when I think of a person that's in a punk rock band, it's you two.
I'm glad we were down in the Lower East Side over at our friend Boogie Lives. You know, that's a really good place to meet up and
At
mutual
Clockwork.
minds. Yeah,
Clockwork, yeah.
good neighborhood.
This was random. I only went in there because I was early for the stand-up,
Yeah.
and it just kind of happened out of nowhere.
Wow, I'm glad you told me about that stand-up stuff. I've been looking into more, and even some spoken word stuff. You know, sometimes too. It's good to keep them educated.
Spoken. Well, I mean, Henry Rollins, right? That's like his.
Yeah.
He has more of that than he has music. It seems like.
Yeah, I liked a lot of Patti Smith stuff too.
Okay.
She sounds like a crazy possessed drunk white lady at the bar.
That's exciting.
Like on the record, I have Radio Ethiopia, but I love it. You know, a lot of spoken word stuff too. You know?
Oh, because she does spoken word.
Yeah, that's what she did.
Okay.
Another friend of ours, Puma Pearl, put her stuff down with Don Steuben's new thing they just sent to something, and it's kind of that. But I mean, not that I'm getting caught up in spoken word. I just honor it. You know, it helps.
Yeah.
And, musicians, we need writing stuff, and sometimes we get caught up having to deal with melodies and stuff, and you know, like even Jeff, his girl sometimes writes some great poetry. I put a little melody to that and put my ha 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 ha
Right.
or whatever, and or a rah if I need Cookie Monster music.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Sometimes you run too many hats on your head and you could forget to write a poem. Not that I like to do that, but
No poems for you. Just the music.
I like to write them myself.
Oh, okay. You do
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
No, I do most of the time. All of our material is, but a lot of
Yes.
times people can help,
Yes.
and you just got to write in, you know, on the split sheets.
So you came up in a New York that I'm 28, so people like me and people my age only hear stories about. We understand that it's very, very. I'm not from here, but I understand that it was a very different time.
Yeah, the concrete was crumbling.
That's what I heard.
The crack pipes and syringes were stumbling. You
Yeah.
could trip on them, and the hookers were availing. And some were too overworked that they were nothing but skeletons, and you know there was a lot of stuff. But I mean, you got to consider which eras of stuff. You know, Cold War had some stuff where they had heroin coming in, and they made movies to support it, like Sid and Nancy and stuff like that. And then you had to stop your friends and oh, I don't need to shoot up no drugs, you know. But it was there, and they had people doing like a Full Metal Jacket. The whole line of junkies would be there doing jumping jacks, and they didn't even have the muscle to do it, just to get their free sample. What was that called, Jeff? Do you remember the name? In Too Deep. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff, you know. The neighborhoods are different.
So people were working out to get.
And they didn't have muscles to work out with.
Oh.
In fact, I just told Jeff the other day, some of those people were out there so long, they didn't even have a body to inject the drugs into anymore.
Right.
What were they doing? But, you know, epidemics and things, it's good. People have more awareness of health and stuff. But it was a different New York. I mean, that's just one aspect.
Sure. Well, there was the beginning. You got to see the beginning of punk music, which is incredible.
Yeah,
That's a time that everybody thinks about when they think of New York. They think of that dirty, grimy shit.
Yeah, it's silly that the Bowery always, you know, hear these little country, bluegrass, you know, and fiddle and all that stuff. CBGBs, it's country bluegrass and all that. And it didn't work that way. And he thought all the winos would go, but they spend their money on bottles of wine, and all they ventured in was some really people that loans and then a lot of stuff in there. But people have aspirations, and sometimes the environment changes some things, and you know you work with it. Life's a work in progress. Punk rock, it's sad. A lot of the Ramones, like especially our mentor Dee Dee Ramone, was good, and I still miss our former bass player Kevin Abscess, but you know him, he'll come around one day. Now we have Michelle Shock. She came around during our protest stuff too. You know?
Yeah.
And
Was she the one who you did the song "Robot Took My Job"? Was that her?
yes,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
robot took my job.
I've been
It's
listening. I've been listening, bro.
these things are. Yeah, we met.
Yeah.
We met at a protest because the way we connected was back in the days we were in the marijuana legislation stuff. The Yippies liked our band because I was in those riots and I was unfortunately put in the newspaper. Someone took a picture of me and then I'm near a car that's on fire and then the street's on fire too and I'm throwing a bottle along with a bunch of other punk rockers and I had my hair stuck up with crazy glue and I would either go bald and it would hurt because I couldn't cut it out.
Yeah.
In the short time they were going to be looking for me and I had to sleep. So I woke up with it and even though I had a bandana on my face, it wasn't hard to find me the next day.
Right.
And, you know, they
Because of the hair?
arrested me. Yeah, they arrested me and all that.
Okay.
And all these people like that and they thought of it like defiance and stand up and do some legislation. So they ran the pop parade things from down Fifth Avenue into Washington Square Park. we were on the bill and stuff and those people, you know, like protesting, make a change and then Michelle Shock years later during the COVID pandemic I met her. She had endured some kind of thing where the police had molested her in a certain way that she's still suffering to this day and can't move her body part, you know. But she, you know, she had it's a like-minded thing, stand up for human rights and stuff in tough times, you know.
Is that where you think punk music came from?
I mean, every time, yeah, we have noticed it had a spike in popularity.
Spike. There you go.
It that was you know, when it was some tough stuff had to happen for people to stand up and say this is wrong. You know, a lot of times it comes to dealing with the people having a lack of money or a lack of even a choice to make money or just being ripped off by the government. Yeah, and I mean the English did a good version where they were like "fuck the Queen," you know, that was pretty hard.
God,
but really, our president said "fuck you, New York City." I think we're in another
Especially
situation
recently, right?
like that. This one is also too.
Yeah.
In the origins of punk, the Ford told them, you know, yeah.
Right. It's very anti-establishment.
Yeah,
That's
the
the whole
government
thing.
is anti-us.
Right. Right.
What else could we do? But they treat us like pawns. We still got little spears.
Yeah. Yeah. Hitting, touching them at their
People.
feet.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
We just hope for make change, you know. Yeah.
And do you think music helps that? Do you think that, or do you think it's just kind of a byproduct of what's happening? Do you think it helps anything, or do you think it's just this is how people feel, so they're gonna create this kind of way, this kind of music?
I believe the musical expression would probably be angry. The best thing is to try to put some melody into it and have the lyrics be catchy and, you know, spoken word with melody to catch someone's attention. I noticed a lot of times while the anger is real and we're writing about stuff that are upsetting, it doesn't exactly attract everyone's pop exposure, melodic attention. So if you had something that was melodic and then they caught and thought in their ear, you know, wow, you know, stop the abuse or something, you know, whatever, stop the fascism or stop the violence. There's many aspects of class war, racism, homophobia, all this stuff has got to be overcome.
Right. Well, there's also parallels. It sounds like you're talking like similar to like folk music, where there's kind of a parallel where they, you know, it's a little more melodic, but they're also talking about issues. They're talking about
They do
a lot of the same stuff that
Dylan,
punk rock. Yeah.
Sometimes even Grateful Dead had some stuff, you know. But
Sure.
But I particularly like the Clash a lot.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
Um,
Can't go wrong with, you know. What the fuck was I listening to earlier? Stand by Me by the Clash. It's not.
Stand by Me. Yep, that's
Yeah,
a good
yeah,
one.
yeah.
That's
That's
a
just
good
a fun
movie
one.
too, where it came from.
Really?
Where them kids are going on an adventure down by the railroad tracks where somebody got killed.
Ah, is that what that's
and
about?
then they're scared to even admit they seen it. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
So when did you decide that you wanted to start making music? And how did it come along?
I guess I was locked in my room in the basement. My parents were going through a divorce and they were arguing, and I couldn't leave. And they gave us some boombox for Christmas, and then I got a acoustic guitar from my black uncle, not and the nephew was my cousin, and I tried to imitate him, Bo Diddley, in some book I had. B.B. King and Janis Joplin was in there, and they had a couple other. It sounded like it was a hippie book, but it still had a Jimi Hendrix was in it, and it had a lot of stuff, and I played along to that. And then I found a college radio that was playing some punk hardcore music, and then I had already learned some of the stuff on this acoustic guitar itself. The neck was all bowed out and everything. And at one point, my brother and I argued about who would go steal some food so we could eat and not be hungry. Maybe they were asleep upstairs, and I argued with him, and he shoved me to get the way to the door to get to the food cabinet, and I had to hit him with the guitar like Al Capone. Remember that cartoon with the donkey?
No.
And he always bashes the guitar over the head and it gets stuck around the neck.
No. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I
Yeah,
had
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
tell
yeah.
my brother to stop, wait, let
Cracked
them
him
sleep
with
a little, and it got stuck on his neck.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't play guitar no more, so I had to.
Guitar is hard, bro. That's not an easy thing to just shake off.
I think I was listening to some Black Sabbath at that and the Ramones.
Yeah,
yeah. But I was only one string in it because I was just a kid. I didn't know
right.
really much about it. And
There was that video of there was this comedian who got real mad years and years ago, and he was playing a guitar on stage, and some guy was talking shit to him, and he fucking cracks him over the head with it, breaks it. The guy's off camera, but you can see he pulls it back, and the guitar's all broken. And
that's easy.
Yeah. And he looks at the audience, and he's like, "He came at me, guys. What do you think?" And everybody's like, "No." Nobody was on his side.
Yeah, that was like my thing getting stuck around the neck. That was like, you were right at first, but now you're wrong. And then he said, "Mom!" And I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
How am I going to undo this? So he ran upstairs with the guitar around the neck, and I was, like you said, I was wrong.
Yeah. So early
Oh,
on,
man.
who do you think is credited with starting punk? Like, I've heard it's the Dolls, I've heard it's the Ramones, someone else.
I always thought that when the Ramones went to England, that influenced the Clash, the Buzzcocks, the Cron Gen later, and all that stuff. I know they had an origin with Iggy Pop, Stooges, and Velvet Underground here in New York, and all of that stuff. It is just, though, really what ping-ponged it back and forth for sure was when they went over there, and then all those English people, and they added their spiky hairs to it, and we were just street people and normal, like our sneakers we're wearing today. We weren't all spiked and studded up.
So that's
it just bounced back and forth, and this one said, "Oh, you did that. I'll do more. I'll punk you."
Yeah.
And then until they were punching holes in the walls, and then they said, "No more punk rock.
Yeah,
you guys are not playing anywhere here. You already weren't getting no airplay.
Yeah.
Even though you were signed to Sire Records and all that with the Ramones." Now, I think the Clash got out the best.
Yeah, right.
They got around that because
They also had hits too, like fun hit, like what you were
all
talking
these
about.
other people had hits, but it's how much did they get airplay?
Right.
In this market currently, it's like people can't really get an airplay too much. It's all locked down for years, and try to get into a Live Nation, something. I don't know.
Well, now it's like streaming, right? It's you can reach an audience outside of the radio now. At least that's what it seems like.
COVID could a lot of people on the streets, like my friends Rebel Matic out here in Brooklyn. They every week would film themselves setting up their stuff like how I do in Tompkins, but there's little version on the street and get people to come out. Streaming helped a lot for stuff like that during COVID. Streaming, does every musician have to really be an influencer, or is it only those who
Right.
get picked by the?
The algorithm.
Is really American Idol really gonna save us? I don't know.
None of those winners do anything. It's only Kelly Clarkson. She's the only one, and the other one, Carrie Underwood. The rest just kind of, you forget about them.
It's an industry just kind of like the military-industrial complex that causes all these wars for them to book stuff over there and take the money away from the people. It's kind of a similar unfair shake. But I mean, yeah.
I would say
Stereotypes.
And you're older than me, and I don't really know anything about the music industry, but it seems like nowadays, because of the internet, that the individual does have a bit more power than in the past.
You have to really pick which person you will invest your time with that is really going to pull the results. There's a lot of bots and a lot of
bots, yeah.
I mean, there's you can do a regime. Well, the Clash, they were like sons of diplomats and stuff like that.
Is that true?
So they had money and they could afford to go out to all these clubs.
Right.
And so I have a friend named Rosie. She's supposed to be so poor, but I know she's just bohemian.
Yeah.
So you got to have something behind you sometimes, and sometimes you can invest in time making friends with people that would pay for recording. Sometimes record labels, other times sponsors, movies like need things. Some stuff people could pick some stuff up with little foot pedaling and social networking you could do. I don't know if it's always hidden that. I will ask Taji advice. What his advice was. He said, Spike, get a YouTube going. I was like, I'll set up this stuff. Jeff, give me some scripts. And all we have to do is just remember the stuff we lived through.
Exactly. And just talk about that, right?
So but I want to have it in a way that people now with an issue, something we did that was a precursor that we were like, we told you so, should have listened.
Yeah.
Kind of like if the movie, Fire in the Sky, where they saw some strange abnormal thing glowing in the woods where nothing, and they like dummies go up to it, and then they see it's aliens, and then instead of leaving, they even offered them chance to leave, and they're like, no, I want to go look at it. And then he gets abducted, and then comes the drill a bitting in the eye and injecting something in the brain and all this terrible shit. And sometimes there's a warning there, and just heed the advice,
Right.
You don't have to go up.
I mean, now it's like
right.
you need your own little social media presence in some way. It's not like there's necessarily a company doing it for you anymore,
What I was describing is each person has their own agenda. And
yes.
Yeah, sometimes you just get something out there and could, see nothing of it. Well, Taylor Swift re-recorded all her stuff. We have our new IRC numbers coming up. We can re-release everything in our own authority and possess all of our, our rights. Like William Hall's, it is my right to my song. We like Lucky Charms stuff. My friend here.
Lucky Charms.
Yeah, Lucky Charms and Dwarves and Lord of the Rings. We were just watching some stuff. It was silly. They were all fighting against a dragon or something.
I've never seen Lord of the Rings. Not even one time.
Sometimes if you're trying to not be focused on too many faders and whatever, you need a break and just like...
Sit down and watch a 5-hour Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it beats jumping off a rooftop, You
Of
can
course,
just zone out. And
Yeah.
maybe you'll sleep and your brain will tell you, you could fix this, you can't fix that, leave this alone,
Right.
Focus,
Right.
Can't always be out there putting out. You got to rest sometimes,
Tell me about how important Thompkins Square Park was. in
it
those
was a
days.
situation of unrest, civil unrest, violence by the authority. It really all went down when they had developers sell out the thing. Antonio Pagan and then some other stuff sold out some stuff, and then they were supposed to change things for the better, and all they did was gentrify it. I mean, the homeless were homeless to begin with and all, but it became a thing of a human rights when you saw the cop out there and his partner beating the guy up for doing nothing outside the store. So we just took our friend back and we wrestled him back. The problem became when the cops somehow had some other cops sneak through the crowd and grab the other limbs, and then we were almost ripping our friend apart, and then he was in pain. So then we realized we had to hit the police to get them to let go, and I guess that was the jump off point, and
So early on, because of the police corruption, this was an area that was affected by that, and you kind of, made a. Sounds like you made a stand in the area.
Just a citizen out there, a human being, just saw something that was wrong. The guy was screaming in pain. It kind of made us feel emotional.
Mm-hmm.
We had panhandled with the guy ourselves a couple times to raise up our funds as teenagers to get a 40 ounce when we were homeless living in the squat, and we knew he didn't really do anything wrong. I mean, at that point in his life, maybe later on he did something we ourselves would have said you can't be in our presence, but not at that time. It was just it just went down.
But what made that area so integral to the creation of punk rock music?
What it was this old world, and it had old world rates, while and artists and musicians would go there because it was affordable. So you could have a basically today's side hustle, and then get by, and then have money still. And like my girlfriend, she read cards at Delia's for Kumo D and Ramones and the Kennedys, and that was all she had, was reading tarot cards. And she afforded to pay her rent, and then she enlisted her paintings in the Guggenheim later on, and the Shinnecock Nation is, preservation, whatever, legally, and but you could do it, and you could meet some pretty famous people that wanted to live a little dangerously by coming in that area, because it was still ridden with crime, but yet it was socially interactive with artists and musicians. And then there was MTVs and stuff, and coming down and looking at the place. And one time I was trying to escape from getting beat up by the bouncer because I didn't have any money as a homeless kid. But we had spiked my hair up, and not with crazy glue, because I wanted to make sure if something happened, I could not, be picked out. And I went through the back lot on CB's on 2nd Street, and then, the Latinos had the thing over there where they had their chop shop. But they didn't give a fuck about me. I was a scrawny kid with my friend, and I went in the basement to the back to the bathroom, and then I came up. But the bouncer realized I was too young, because I was a teenager, and you had to be a certain age because it's drinking. So he's trying to get me, and I'm running and get away from him. And I had all my hair spiked up, and I didn't know they were filming on MTV, a band called SNFU from Canada or something like that on MTV. And then there I appeared in the video. So it's like you could just go out doing one thing and end up totally advancing something somewhere else.
Wow.
Here I was escaping from my life and ended up on a in a
music video.
MTV video.
Yeah.
I never signed anything, but they certainly didn't have a problem using it.
Yeah, right.
The guy caught me eventually and picked me up, cause I was just a kid. He picked me up by the back, threw me in the front.
How young were you?
I was only like 18, but I was under eating and because I was homeless and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So at 18, were you already making music, or were you just hanging?
We were trying. We put a couple bands together in the squat, and that's how. When we finally did, the Yippies kept following us. They knew we were homeless, and they took us to their communist meetings. They'd give us cookies and coffee, would make us go there to eat something. And give us khaki stuff, but it didn't really fit like punk rock clothes. While I loved the Clash, the clothing didn't fit yet, you know. So we were just street punks, and eventually they found a niche for us and gave us that stuff of doing the High Times Cannabis Cup tour with Cypress, Hills, Onyx, and some, you know, Biggie Smalls did his first thing there that day, and
Oh,
we
man.
were under the arches at Washington Square Park in '92. May Day. It's always May Day.
This was now you're talking about the Cannabis Cup. This was like a pro
Marijuana's illegal, yeah.
at the time, right?
But you could smoke legally in the park then.
Really?
Yeah, they just shut it down. The
Okay.
cops stand there like this bulldog faces because
Really?
they don't like us from the generational difference and
Uh-huh.
like Generation X and Boomers or whatever.
Right.
And they don't like us. But so they barricade off, and if you leave one little thing, they will break your bones, like you know, like terrible.
If you walk off the park
But you-
smoking a joint,
So what
they
they
beat your
did
ass.
was is they would come over with a helicopter. They would come and roll all these bullshit, homegrown, weak, but it was still weed. It would still get you a buzz. And then the helicopter would come and it would drop it on the audience, and then they would just dive like. And then we have punk rock. So
Yeah.
we have the slam dance and dance music. So then there's slam dancing, picking up marijuana as we're playing, and it's
Yeah. Wow. What do you
when it's illegal. It's
right?
even more fun, like prohibition.
Right. So what do you think about now? How you could just like go to a store and just buy weed?
That defeats all my fame.
Yeah.
No, but it was worth the effort to, you know, put the fight
Yeah.
in to make it legal. It wouldn't happen without the people chipping in, you know.
Right. Now you're saying you mentioned the Yippie. Who are the Yippies?
Well, they're like a hippie thing, but they're kind of like anarchistic in a way, and they hang out with really. They've been known to be like with urban underground or whatever that one was wanted with the bank robberies and stuff. Sometimes they need to make a little fundraising, and they didn't have the resources and the forms of sponsorship. So in those days, maybe they might have had to make it a withdrawal somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. But so it's sometimes the Weather Underground. So they were connected with some stuff like that, but they were still connected with, like the scene.
Right.
They were always in support of keeping the people politically aware, and they ran a shop on Bleecker Street, 9 Bleecker Street, I believe it is, and they sold their marijuana, which was illegal and all that, but that's how they got the money to pay Ron Koopy, Stanley Cohen, and William Kunstler, who were my lawyers when I was arrested for that riot. So they were already helping me by getting me out of jail.
Right. Because you already had the resources there.
They had the resources.
Yeah, right.
I was just a
right.
panhandling punk rocker on the street,
Yeah.
going to food.
Going to
pantry,
the riots and yeah.
But through the music, though, I found that I got tired of getting arrested, you know? How many times I want to eat bologna and sandwich, bologna cheese. I don't like constipation. The cookies they give me ain't working as much, you know?
Yeah.
We would dumpster dive some, and then we'd have battles over who owned the squat, because Krusties would come in and try to act like they deserved it. But they weren't fighting the cops at the riots, so I'm like, get out!
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. You had that above them. You were like, I'm on the boots on the ground over here, bro.
I was arrested for this shit.
Yeah.
I'm in the newspaper for this shit.
Summer, messing up our spots with
Well,
the
right.
food.
So the-
Certain places would leave pizza out on the dumpster,
Yeah.
put it in it, and they ruined it for us.
And then the paisanos would pee on it,
Eventually, yeah,
so
they
nobody
started
could get
throwing
it.
in the dumpster and pouring bleach.
Oh shit! So they fucked everything up for you
Yeah,
guys.
so they get our stuff
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they make us look like bums, and then they're not fighting against the police for any activity. And then I'm like, I felt like the deflated thing, like,
Yeah. All the work you guys put in.
And I don't know, we got hooked up with Gigi Allen one day, you know,
Oh,
and
that
that
guy
was
was
more
lunatic.
exciting. He was a little too scary though, because that
That's what
guy,
it seemed like, right?
yeah, he'll be sitting there as your friend, and then all of a sudden you'll feel like he was a predator on you or something.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So you hung out with
But
Gigi.
at least he was a poop throne guy. He wasn't like Puff Daddy or P Diddy. You know,
Yeah,
I know he,
doing
even though
filthy
he
shit.
did bad things too, dude.
Of course.
Gigi's problem was he had a millimeter Peter. So if he raped somebody, they wouldn't even, like the woman saying the virgin, is it in yet? They might not know with
Right.
Gigi. So he couldn't actually really offensive. The poop was offensive though.
But Diddy has a
That
hog.
was more offensive. But P Diddy, he's
got a hog.
different- He's something else.
Yeah.
guy.
So Gigi used to like, for people that don't know, he used to throw shit and vomit and.
There was a time he
the
didn't
audience.
do that. He was signed with Orange Records. My roommate is on another record label, and before he was a respectable man, no poop throwing, signed with Joan Jett, and they had all the yippies like Wayne Kramer and from the MC5 and all that in the band, and
Yeah.
and John Lennon, David Peel, all on his record. Yeah.
Damn.
So Gigi was on this record label and would play shows with them. And I guess he started throwing poop once it looked like. The problem, again, people punching holes in walls.
Yes.
They get so rowdy. Sure, you could fill the place, but don't tell them to break the place.
Right.
And
Right.
that's why he got frustrated and couldn't make no money. He came out looking like a wrestler.
Yeah. Nobody booking him.
And
Yeah.
then he had to act. I'm going to kill myself. And,
Like Andy Kaufman.
and my audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then he playing with the Nihilistics and Poison Idea and all those things and I'm like, I want to play with them too. And then finally did get to play a show. And then the other bands we worked on were Trauma Productions because they have a Toxic Avenger who beats up the gentrifying yuppies with his dirty mop bucket. There's another character.
That was part of the character.
Social justice.
Wow. Yeah, that I mean between Gigi Allen and fucking Andy Kaufman, both those guys just wanted their main performance to be killing themselves on stage. They wanted like their grand.
Ted Sharpless made his movie. He made our video, Detox Style. We used the footage from Paul Kostabi, who was in Dee Dee Ramone's band, and that's how we got working with the Ramones.
Gotcha.
And got on some MCA contests and stuff like that, and worked our way up to Wendy's commercials, Howard Stern commercials, wow, Spike Lee things, and then
Yeah.
keep at it. You know,
What was the Spike Lee movie again?
we only
remember the
did a
name?
television commercial.
Yeah.
It's a Summer of Sam, and I
Yes.
saw it. It was 30 seconds,
Yeah.
and it was cool. We held the thing at Gracie Mansion up on 96th Street, up there, our party, and the screening of
Yeah.
the movie. And I was a little disappointed when we weren't in the movie, but I did remember we were on the TV thing. And I have that Screen Actors Guild card ever since, you know, and I'm a singer officially with
You
that.
got a SAG card off that.
Yeah,
Oh,
because I
wow.
was singing
Yeah.
spoken my word. They made us write our song, Detox Style, and Subway Surfing, and make a combination of them. We had 3 days. Windswept Entertainment said, you make it come back with nothing, you get nothing.
Yeah.
So we scrambled. We stayed at the same place I'm in now, 584 8th Avenue, my same rehearsal space.
Yeah.
Yeah, we scrambled. We stayed late. We slept on the couch, drunk, water, sober up, smoke whatever you had to do, jumping jacks,
Yeah.
eat
yeah,
food,
Just make it happen.
shit, whatever, make it. All right, you're done writing your part. All right, my turn. You go take your break, you know.
Yeah.
And then after that, then we had to record it, and then another session of filming it.
Right.
And then the principals are dancing to our music on the scene I got to see.
And it took 3. You did that in 3 days.
No, 3 sessions.
3 sessions.
One was
Gotcha,
3 days
gotcha,
writing
gotcha.
it, combining what they told us, and then another incident of 1970s vintage over on like 54th or something like that, between 9th and 10th. Nice studio, Sony Universal. They had every instrument that was used to record at that era. They had the studio room with a year number on it.
Yeah.
And we did that, and then the last one was filming. The filming took the longest, and the writing. Yeah.
Right. So you're 18, you're hanging out, you're finding I guess a tribe that could be what it could be called, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you're trying to put together bands. When does Sewage come together? Is it around that time, or is it a little later?
And you said it was what year?
What you mean? Oh, 18. Because that's where we left
Oh,
off. You
18.
were saying you were 18, and that was around the time that you were starting to play instruments.
We kept trying to put the band together.
Yeah.
But it's like herding cats, and I was trying with an idea, and I had it originally where we played at the 13th Street Squat where they held the communist meetings, and the Yippies would have a place up there too, and then there was some other kind of group trying to get the kids to, be with their group, and they were we would rehearse down there in the basement of 13th Street Squad, and I had a bunch of different people in, and sometimes they would argue. Like, I didn't really want to sing at first. I just had some music ideas. Like, I liked the Ramones, and I loved the Clash idea of the, like Give 'Em Enough Rope and Sandinista kind of ideas, and the putting the people together was difficult. Sometimes they beat each other up on stage. I had an English guy and an Irish guy I tried to get to be the singer, and after they were fighting, literally because it was still the Irish Republican Army still didn't have all of their stuff they needed from the whatever. And so these guys were here. This is New York City. And then I have my friends who, I played the bass, and I had a drummer friend. And then I got some guitarist guy who seemed wild but yet just manageable to work with. And I'm like, well, we just got the music together. I don't have time to sing. Maybe we could just let them sing whatever. So they got up there, and he started talking about bombing tunnels, and he started singing about shooting them with the Mi-15, and they went back and forth, and then they started beating each other up on stage. But then, because it was the squatter and the skinhead don't like the squatter, and they don't like the communists, and they don't like the anarchist or whatever, they bust through the door and beat them both down. And we were on acid. We were playing, and I was stuck in a metronome trance, and I was singing the parts that I wrote the words for anyway, even though they argued, and it came out roughshod. And they beat the doorman up. A poor guy.
Damn.
Yippie guy. He's just a little, retiree hippie. We're all rolling his cigarettes, can't afford to buy him a pack of Marlboros or that poster over there. Cool. He just rolls it himself. And they took him and smashed his head on the thing. And
Damn.
They took the change jar. They're working class. Why did you have to steal the homeless man's change jar on top of it? So they did that. And then they stormed out, and then the building came down of all the squad. But they're all decrepit, like zombies almost. So they're gonna kill you, and skinheads are running away, and they can't do nothing. But they did dumb poop on them. They did have that in their power.
Wow.
And they did catch them in that capacity, and they doused them because they didn't have plumbing in their squat.
Right.
So they would poop and
Just
urinate and defecate
in a bucket.
in a bucket.
Yeah.
And they managed to catch a couple of them. And they didn't try that no more.
Did you ever get blasted with shit in your years?
I know it sounds like the band Sewage, but yeah, I mean, sometimes Sewage could have been a weapon too.
Yeah.
Flush buckets. What was that? There was somebody made a band. Our friend made a band, Royal Flush.
That's a good
There was
name.
another method that you would use the pee only and pour that down the toilet when you had it, and that would flush the solids down.
Yes. I know what you're talking about. I saw that on Extreme Cheapskates. You ever watch that show? There's a guy that only flushes his toilet once a week. And he does it that way. He just dumps water in and it flushes.
Dirty bathwater, maybe.
You know what?
On top of it, probably.
He would shower, and the runoff, he would keep a bucket. And the runoff would get in the bucket, and at the end of the week, he would just dump. So his dirty body water into the toilet.
Wow.
Yeah, that's hardcore.
That's worse than the composting they've enforced recently here in New York City.
Where you got to get an
That's
app.
really recycling.
Yeah. You seen the compost bins? You gotta get an app to use them. Those are hilarious.
I'm sure they're enforcing it here. You know what happened is that used to be in the day, garbage truck workers were really just ex-cons and former, mafia guys who are allowed to be wise guys, but now they got to lay low. So they're driving that truck for the parole job, and it's 3 a.m, and they finally get that swig of whiskey, and you're like, yeah, a homeless person. And they just run them over and kill them. There was always a 4 a.m. time when old ladies, bag ladies, cat ladies, homeless people, chud, alligators, whatever, will get run over. And now, since they're not really able to do that, they're laying down their game, and they want to penalize for the composting to make up the difference.
Right.
The aggression's going to come out somewhere.
Somewhere else. Yeah.
On the New York City residents.
So, okay, so how long are you playing before it becomes a regular gig? How long is your band working? Because it sounds like, putting a band together sounds exactly like what you're saying, a pain in the ass.
Well, after the skinheads broke all the stuff and the guys beat each other up, the jazz guys at the Yippie place told us maybe we should take a break. And
Yeah.
we they moved us on to the Yippies that gave us the pop parade, and then after that, at the pop parade thing, Hip Hop Homie was upset because he found out that Onyx wasn't going to, or Cypress Hill wasn't going to play. So then they started beating up the white girl dancing, and then it looked like they had crushed the circle pit that was going on because they were angry that the one thing wasn't going to play, until she jumped on them and crushed the guy that had been punching her in the face. And then all the hip-hop homies started raising their hand in celebration like they had witnessed enough violence, which is strange. It's supposed to be a yippee hippie thing. They needed that violence, and then that quelled it. And then they were like, yeah, play another song. And then we played another song, and then they were like, one more, and the lady's like, no, they got to go. There's only so much time limit on the permit, and we have other things to do. So then after that, they started shooting their guns in the air, and then the cops came in and shut the show down.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And after that, we got another kind of thing where we maybe we're not punching holes in the walls, but maybe the fans and the people are shooting guns in the air. So now we couldn't play for a little while.
Yeah.
Until we met Gigi, and Gigi take us on, and he's like, "Sure, I'll throw poop.
Yeah.
No problem."
You guys.
Guns
So you guys were like opening.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, I got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum documentary, and then some other Joan Rivers did a thing, and I modeled with Armani. I had an agent after that, and I realized I don't want to be involved in these street fight, bar fight things.
Yeah.
You know, every time I go away, they're locking me up for longer. And now my friend Slug stole my bail money. He convinced my girlfriend that they were going to pay for everybody's bail, and no, he just took and bailed himself out and left all of us in jail.
Shit.
And eventually they were like, you guys are petty criminals. Get out of here,
Yeah.
And then that's when I'm like, I'm just going to do this. If I'm doing modeling and doing music stuff, I should just stay doing that. Save that street fighting, brawling shit, and save it for something else. There's not even anything to fight for anymore. There was the park was closed. Everybody was into the clubs. The clubs are about making money. Fighting makes you not earn money.
Right.
Get with the program.
Yeah.
Like even Lucky Luciano and the foreman of the commission. It's if you're not making something at it,
it's just senseless.
Like when he had to tell Capone, she'll sit down for a second.
Relax.
Let us make some money. So that kind of behavior got to stop.
Right. Yeah. So it just sounds like you matured a little bit. You're like, I'm starting to get a little bit of traction, and let's try to feed this beast a little,
And then it was work. We played NYU and stuff. Paul Kostabi like us, and later Spike Lee and all these stuff. And we did the David Letterman thing. He was cool in a skit with us. He went on a vacation, but he never left. He just got too drunk and fell down, and we laughed at him instead of helping him get up.
That was a skit you guys did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We were at the Ed Sullivan Theater.
Yeah.
Ed Sullivan. Later on in time, I did something with Steve Colbert, but you wouldn't even know it was me. It wasn't our band. We got credited as Sewage on that one.
Gotcha.
On the other one, they almost like they stapled a heavy metal wig to my traumatic brain injury and see if it sticks into the spikes and play a guitar. It was a skit on another thing of a death metal couple get married in the woods and met a concert happening, and they abducted them. We were going to sacrifice them.
Gotcha.
Pretty easy.
That sounds like fun.
It's almost like roasting police on the Spitfire over the bonfire. In my childhood, it sounds fun.
Yeah. Reminded you of a younger time.
Good stuff.
So tell me about CBGB's. How cool was that place?
Dirty place. It was cool because everybody, wanted to be there. We liked the interior. Always try to put your sticker up. See your sticker covered up by 10 other people's sticker next time you come by. The dripping water on the stage was always a concern because you could get a real zap when you go to sing and you're doing multitasking. So there was always that front drip on in the middle of the stage. In my times, so I didn't like that too much because we used to trade off as a power trio. I'll play bass and sing, and then I hand the bass over to the other guy, and he'll give me the guitar, and we'll switch off. And if you get too close on the mic and you step in that puddle,
it'll zap you.
We were just talking about a Chris Flash concert the other day. We had wished the sound man had got that good experience so he would believe me. Don't do this in water. They don't mix.
Right.
Don't you know about the electric chair?
Metal fucking stage full of water.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how when the electric chair came around, they were like, "This is more humane."
Thomas Edison with his elephant. I was told. Yeah.
Elephant.
Yeah, that's what he tried it on first. It took a while. It just
Yeah.
made a lot of stink. And that first execution at Sing Sing, a real stinker.
That was the first one.
Well, he tried the elephant first.
Damn.
Then he went on to people because he thought it's smaller.
Yeah. An elephant. Didn't they kill a fucking elephant with acid, or they tried to? You remember that?
That sounds like the Grateful Dead.
That's old.
I
Can you
mean-
find that, Billy? There was like this experiment that they did to try and I think we looked this up before on this show, but they tried to fucking see how much acid it would take for, drug propaganda to try and kill a fucking elephant.
Wow.
That's pretty wild. So CBGB's, was that like the premiere, not premiere, but that was like where everybody was playing, where you'd see people you knew and
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
it. And then they would do different events. They would do days on Sundays where they had the hardcore stuff, where they got the people with like that moved it more from melodic to more hardcore. Like I said, most of the lyrics are about stuff that makes people upset.
yes.
But some people didn't want to bother putting melody in it. They would just say, "Rah, I'm angry."
Just being angry. There is a historical instance of an elephant named Tusco being given a large dose of LSD as part of an experiment. The experiment, which took place in Oklahoma, involved injecting Tusco with LSD, resulting in the elephant's death. Holy shit. He's an Asian elephant from Thailand. Huh.
That poor bastard had no idea what was
He was probably tripping super hard, though.
Hopefully it was a happy ending.
Yeah, right. Elephant never forgets, right?
Like on the Men in Black when they neuralize them and Agent K says, "Make it a happy ending."
Yeah. Damn.
Wow.
What do we got? Tusco's last trip? Nah, fuck it. We can move on. We can move on.
first song.
Tusco's last trip, right? That is a good name for a song. So, people were getting at CBGB's. It was you were saying it was the hardcore music started coming through.
Yeah,
People getting angry and
yeah.
yeah.
So what happened was that people started making another place where maybe they didn't want to have to be so having to prove themselves, and they made another place down on the Lower East Side on Rivington Street. And at Rivington Street, they started, it was called ABC No Rio, and it was, of course, a squat in an abandoned building. And they ran it downstairs, and then it developed more of a punk rock thing. But punk rock, between the hardcore and then the people that started everything, like who we would work with, like the Ramones or Blondie or Iggy, those are the people you would be working with as a punk rocker. And then the metal, the skinheads were the people you might get thrown in a show with. But this place was just for punk rock, and in a certain
Gotcha.
time of maybe middle to later 80s into type of stuff where the music was faster, and maybe they were more squatter types because the city was in a state of decay and neglect for so long that they thought putting dog shit in your hair and roping it up would make you cooler. And it got more like, it used to be like, I'm tougher than you, or I'm faster than you,
Yeah.
or I'm more punk rock and more daring than you. And each daring thing got worse and worse until they were nothing more than the sidewalk itself. And that's the
Right.
crusties. And then they had dreadlocks, and then they talked a good political game, but they didn't always show up at the conflict, So that's why I have songs like Krusty's, need to
Right.
step up,
Right.
lay their Molotov game down. And,
Yeah.
doing enough bottle smashing around here at these protests. But, those are days before, like, people, we don't do it like that now. Now it's peaceful. You want to demonstrate and make a point. It's about raising the numbers so people can understand a significant amount of the population feels a certain way. It's not really about violence on violence. In this instance, when we go out and protest, because I belong to a lot of protest agencies, I make sure I keep my union protest up to par.
Yeah.
That's how I met Michelle one day. She had been protesting too. And she liked our songs about the police beating people up and you got to stop this from happening. And the songs about the Ku Klux Klan working for the state of New York and upstate New York with the Department of Corrections, or the local Latino guys down here at Rikers Island just embezzling and stealing the ice creams, the pillows, and the mattresses and selling them at the bodegas and then giving the prisoners nothing and making them starve. There's many aspects of corruption and stuff you can. So she likes some of these songs that we have, and the fun ones too.
So it sounds a lot like punk is more of how you act, not necessarily how you present yourself, what you wear.
Yeah,
It might be part of it, but it seems like more of it is what you do and how you act on stuff.
It's the standing up for what's right, the common person, or poor, the working class, even rich people who deserve a thing too. It's just human rights matter, and sometimes some things are just oppressively wrong. And there's a balance that things can go, too liberal, too right wing. But America was supposed to have that in place, checks and balances. And if we the people have to step up, something's wrong. Can't we just live? What about Spock? Live long and be prosperous. How are we going to do that if stuff is offset?
Right. Yeah. Well, we live in a place where it's always a pendulum swing.
We noticed.
Yeah, right. It's always one
Is it
extreme
the
to the
guillotine
next.
swinging across?
It could be, right?
Closer in each.
Yeah. Well, with each pendulum swing, it's fucking up some other group, right?
But each one of it is till we're all gone.
Yeah.
I really hope the aliens will just eat us quickly when we find out this puppet is, an alien in disguise.
You think there's aliens? What do you think?
It's got to be some weird explanation that'll just be comedic and make us laugh it off. And
That'd be nice.
if you can't just make it change, dying comedy, I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't want to be jokers, but if life were overwhelming, you would have to just joke it off. But we can make a change
Yeah.
through the humanity. People just relate. The same people want bad things to happen. Sometimes things go around full cycle, and when it happens with them, then they can say, "Stop,
Right.
stop."
Right.
What about us?
Sure.
Oh, us?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's make a change.
We're a lot more connected than we're led to believe, We share a lot of the same experiences. We're just divided because it's pushed on us. You know, we're kind of meant to believe that we're more different than we are when we're really not.
I think when the COVID pandemic came around, it was a lot of proper Nazi stuff going on and division, and there's always a division, but I think that the things really got at that point, changed.
Mm-hmm.
The people just got to find the connectedness in it all. Yeah.
Right. And you hope it's outside of some, ideology, and more so the idea of us being humans.
Yeah.
You know?
Sometimes I've watched other countries' newses to try to get a gist on what's real in this world, because I wondered, was this anything real here when one is only left and one is only right?
Right, yeah.
Maybe I might feel too left, so I only watch the left. Sometimes I'll look at the other things to get an idea, but I don't trust anything. My friend here, Jeff, he's like, he is happy to be off the grid, you know. Pardon me, I meant, you're not allowed to say his name, he's off the grid.
Yeah, do the rewind.
Yeah, to be off the grid, you know, sometimes. But, you know, being tuned out, you might need a break to reset, but just about us being us. And
yeah,
back on
well,
track.
you made a good point by watching the news, and like you watch like BBC or from a different country where you're like, it's objective. It's a little more objective. We're here, they're catering to an audience.
You
Fox
do have to
knows.
check who funds them, though. Like
Yes.
our New York City mayoral race, there was a couple that were not checked off. That means they're taking direct money from a corporation that's influencing how they litigate and what they will support in their vote, which is supposed to be your vote, and you
Right.
may not know that.
Right. Well, I mean, regardless of how you feel about Zoran, what he's done is pretty impressive.
I voted for that guy.
Yeah.
I've lost at my elections. I don't want to talk too much, but yeah, I voted for that guy.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know who to vote for on the judges,
Ah, okay.
so I left that one blank.
Sure.
Because, I'm sorry, stand in front of the judge, it's never been such a good thing, but paying a fine,
Right. Yeah. You have a specific
defending to pay a fine, or
Sure. So you've been in the game for a pretty long time. What are you up to these days? Still playing music? Still performing? Making stuff?
we're gonna do something at Baker's Falls coming up real soon. Baker's Falls has us. We're gonna be doing a Michelle Shock thing with us, and probably Robot Took the Job will be on the track,
Sick.
and we're gonna have a little event. I believe it was the 27th of July over there, and we have another one. There's a lot of plans. We're looking to go up to Canada.
Oh.
I just hope they still will have Americans. Maybe I can wear like a Scottish flag on my bracelet,
go.
so they'll think I'm from somewhere else and not tell me to go back.
Right.
And be like,
Yeah.
I'm not paying more for my Canadian maple syrup to go across the border.
Yeah.
They could get upset too.
Yeah, for
These
sure.
are some calm people, and if they're upset, then they got a real reason to beat you down, so they'll feel justified. It'd be hard to fight them off.
That's a good
And
point.
I don't want to have to fight them off for something I didn't do. You know?
Right.
I want free maple syrup for everybody. Evan Williams flowing freely.
They got the good maple syrup.
Yeah, I know.
I had a friend from Toronto. She gave me a bottle of it. It's great.
This should never ruin these borders. I love my avocados. Well, actually, it is kind of fattening, but that doesn't mean you should be denied it, you know.
A maple syrup?
Yeah.
Yeah. But theirs is good. Like, it's, it's made well. See, here in America, we got a bunch of shit in our food that's illegal in other countries, so it's,
When I go on tour, I feel like I'm missing something in my diet. I feel hungry, like as if I was a cigarette smoker, and I am not. And I'm withdrawing from cigarettes, and I go, what the heck is wrong? And then they tell me, oh, well, this is just a real rabbit, and this is just a real broccoli I grew it in my garden, and
Yeah.
or from the grocery. The label only says sugar. You know,
You're like, where's my poison? There's no poison
salt,
in this food.
vinegar on the ketchup,
Yeah, it's just normal shit.
and you're like, you're a junkie. I ain't no junkie.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
no track marks on my arm. They know
Yeah.
your food
Yes.
is GMO and a lot of stuff, and you want to stay over there long enough, and then you finally feel it, and you could feel yourself getting skinnier and feeling like, I
Got
could do-
energy, yeah.
ah.
Yeah.
Whatever disabilities you have, you still have, but the rest of you could feel a little better. But then you're like, kind of like, I'm lonely. Can I bring this food with me back home? They won't let you.
Really?
No.
Like you're talking about on the plane?
Customs.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Right.
I'd
You
had
can
a
hide that shit.
record label in Italy that took us there back and forth for years on tours and recording albums. Yeah. I had an easier time smuggling marijuana from California through UPS when it was illegal
Sure.
than I did bringing food across from Italy or from Slovenia or from Austria, or.
Yeah. Well, Italy has a lot of regulations on their food and how it can be grown and prepared and
Yeah,
all that shit.
yeah.
They're really into that, which makes sense. I mean, they got some of the best food in the world. You eat a pizza in Italy, you can,
Focaccia. Yep.
you can live the rest of your day normally. You eat a pizza here, you're gonna fucking
It's in
pass
the
out.
cheese. It's in the cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Hell yeah. And you still put on shows at Thompkins Square? Is that?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we do little events over there. Our next one we're working on, we're gonna put a little recording on it and make a release with it, with our newfound information through the Sewer Lid Music LLC, and the help of Michelle Schacht and Ted Saberty and people in the community.
Sure.
Even others in the past will step forward, like Dayon Molina and Chris Flash, and of course Jeff and Luann, of course, are going to help, and Hack will be there, and Heidi will be there, and, just the community putting stuff together.
Do they still is it still prominent there? Do they still have shows there, or is it is it less? I'd assume it's less, or it's about the same.
No, it's a lot.
It is.
They capitalize on the calendar.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Very
It's
cool.
good. A lot of stuff.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, hey guys. What's that?
The whole summer was.
The summer was popping.
That's why we had to get it Monday.
Oh, gotcha.
But it worked with the radio thing we do.
It worked. Yeah.
Yeah, it hot spotted my phone. My computer had no internet, so we used the phone hotspot, and we broadcasted the concert onto the non-for-profit radio station that I do Monday.
Yeah.
Whatever, 68 Radio on Punk Rock and Beyond.
There you go.
But we did that, and then on my birthday next time, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just find a way to play on the show.
Yes.
And maybe let these people move to, I don't know.
They can
If it's-
organize it.
Yeah, if it's my equipment, though, then it means it's my responsibility.
Right. Yeah, it's a whole other thing putting on a show versus just playing on a show.
Like The Godfather, he had to sit inside talking business while the whole party of the marriage was going on outside. Did he get to enjoy it?
Nope.
He went out with the last minute. That's how I felt.
Like Vito Corleone.
what is this? What is this?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
mine, but it's not mine.
Right.
Lesson learned.
It's like when you cook a big meal and you're not hungry at the end.
I have a
Cook for
problem with
everybody.
this. I invite all these people over to have events at my place on
Yeah.
the roof, and then I'm cooking all this food, and I'm like, I'm not even eating all this stuff.
Yeah. It happens.
These people live good.
Yeah. All your friends.
Yeah. Trader Joe's is nearby.
Nice. Hell yeah. Well, hey, brother, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know we're going to be rocking out soon.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing some spoken word and comedy on one of our events.
I would love that. I would
we'll
love
make
that.
it happen.
Do some stand-up.
Hey,
Hell yeah.
it is great stage time.
Yes. Yeah, I would love that.
Thank you.
Where can people find you as far as socials, YouTube, plug all that shit?
There's a spikesewage.com.
Yeah.
There's a on the YouTube we have a Sewage NYC page. Their Instagram is SpikePolite_Sewage NYC. Yeah, Facebook Sewage NYC Punk Rock. A lot of stuff. We're on the groups. Oh, look at Punk Rock and Beyond as another thing on our Facebook group. We try to get more outside of Facebook to get away from the metadata influence, but you could find TikTok if they're not going away at Spike Polite or.
Yeah.
We're working on our YouTube thing.
Awesome.
One live pro at a time.
Hell yeah.
L1. L4.
All right, guys. We're done. We're going to talk to y'all next week. Thank you guys again for coming on.
Thank you.
Adios.
Great summer.